Hey everyone, welcome back to Caitlin's Corner. Today we're going to be kind of doing a little bit of a mix mash project array. So the first thing that we're going to do is plant up this Greenstalk vertical garden. My plan is to make it an apothecary style garden with a bunch of herbs and medicinal flowers and things of that nature. I do have a number of different things for this planter here. Not sure that I have exactly enough to fill each cell, but we'll see. We'll see where we get. But let's first talk here a little bit about this Greenstalk and how it works and how we're planning on planting it. And then we'll see where the rest of the day takes us in terms of projects. So this is the Greenstalk vertical garden that we are going to be planting up today. As you can see, it is 7 tiers tall with 6 pockets per tier. So there are a lot of planting opportunities in this container. So one of the things that you need to be very mindful of with your Greenstalk planters is the type of planting mix that you use. And you want to use a soilless mix, which basically means that you want to use like a potting mix essentially. So something that is light and airy, doesn't compact very easily. So you wouldn't want to use garden soil. You wouldn't want to use raised bed mix. You wouldn't want to use like regular in-ground soil that you have from your garden just naturally. All of that's going to be too heavy for this container. So you want to use a really good quality potting mix. I in here have a potting mix combined with a little bit of a cactus mix actually, because the potting mix that I had was pretty dense, and I was noticing that in other containers that I have, it was kind of gumming up a little bit more than I wanted. So I added a cactus and succulent mixture to it, which has a lot more perlite in it. And that is going to make this to where the drainage on it is much better. It doesn't kind of gum up and become this hard clay, just rock of dirt in your containers, which is going to make it much easier for anything that you put in here to grow. So here is an example of what the soil in here looks like. These little pieces right here are the perlite, and you can see there's quite a bit of it, some smaller, some larger. And I did put the soil in here pretty much all the way up to the top, because as the water comes in, it is going to compact and sink down. Another reason that you want a nice light mix in these cells. So this is what a tier looks like on this Greenstalk. So this is where your water will come into. There's a top reservoir, and it will come down this chute here, fill up in each tier, and then there are holes at each section that the water will drip out into. So there's a few things that are really important about how you put your Greenstalk vertical planter together. And one of them is the way that this little trough here is situated. So each of those holes has to be directly aligned to the center of one of your cell packs here. And you also want to make sure that it is sitting pretty level. You can see that it kind of tips a bit. And if it were to tip in one direction slightly more than the other, it's going to pull the water that direction just with gravity. And so those cells will get more water than the others, which makes perfect sense. Another piece that you want to consider is the way that these align. So you can tell here that they pretty much go every other. That way you can have enough vertical space for whatever you're planting in each cell. And there are 2 little forks here underneath each of these cells. And so that goes directly down onto the lip of the bottom below 2 cells here of the Greenstalk. So you want to make sure that those are perfectly situated and latched. That way it all sits together properly. It doesn't necessarily click or anything like that, but you can feel the way that it's propped up the on each other and see whether it feels like it's, situated correctly. Plus, it's also, like I said, pretty easy to see whether or not you have it seated properly because of the way that they're supposed to line up. So this is our array of plants so far for the Greenstalk. I might also do some seeding of a few herbs, and I might leave a few open for some other herbs and such that we may find on trips and whatnot. But we have a few different varieties of violas and pansies. We have a calendula, which is the yellow here. We've got some thyme. This is the variegated lemon thyme. I've got a Bergarten sage, a red Reuben basil, trailing rosemary here, cilantro, chamomile, and some spinach. So let's just get to planting and see what we end up with.
Let's talk about some of these plants that I'm planting up today. So first is valerian, and it is commonly used for things like insomnia, anxiety, headaches, stress, and depression. Another I'm planting up is chamomile, and this one is pretty well known for its calming and soothing properties, especially in teas. Red Reuben basil is a variety of sweet basil, and it's used because of its intense flavor and making a really pretty garnish for culinary dishes. Pansies and violas are very commonly used as nice little garnishes for culinary dishes. However, they have also been used medicinally for centuries in a variety of different cultures. Some of their medicinal uses are for skin conditions, respiratory health, and even digestive health. Rosemary has a long history of medicinal use, including boasting antioxidant, anti inflammatory, and antimicrobial properties. Each of the things that I'm planting up today have such great use in terms of both culinary and medicinal properties. As I use each, I will show you. That way you can see exactly the best use for each.
So the first part of planting up our green stalk is done. We've got violas and pansies in here, some seascape strawberries, spinach, cilantro, sage, thyme, basil. What else? Valerian, chamomile, um, calendula, all sorts of goodies in here. And now what I'm going to do is the rest of the cells that are in here that don't have anything planted, I'm going to do some different lettuce for right now, and probably reseed lettuce here and there as I need it. And then as I find other medicinal herbs and flowers that I like, I will be placing them in here in replacement of the lettuce. So these are the different lettuce seeds that I'm going to be using to seed. I have 4 packets here on the left that I got from the dollar store. They're just kind of a curly leafed green lettuce. And then the other here is a gourmet greens mix that I got probably from a big box store. So we'll just seed directly into the cells here, lightly covering the top with some more soil, and then we'll call it a day on the Greenstalk. So our next project for the day is going to be planting up some grow bags. These are 7-gallon grow bags, and what we're going to be putting in here, at least to start off with, are some seed potatoes and some more candy onions like we planted up in the raised beds. So let's get these filled and all of that planted up.
So these are the 2 bags that we're going to be planting up. These are from Vivo Sun on Amazon. And what we're going to do is fill them with the exact same mix that is in the Greenstalk right here. One of the things that I really liked about these specific ones when I purchased them on Amazon was this clear around the edge of this. You can see the roots developing, and in the case of the potatoes and the onions, the tubers developing here in the mix as they grow, which I think is pretty cool. So let's get these filled up and get those planted. All right, so for our seed potatoes, we're doing the Huckleberry Gold, and they're supposed to be a really creamy, rich, just yummy potato. And I like the color that's on the outside, that purpley color. I think that that's just really fun. Again, I mentioned it in the raised bed video that I really want to create a really colorful garden here with our veggies and fruits. So my plan here is to grow a lot of like rainbow variety things, and mix in, colors like this purple or Huckleberry Gold potato into the mix.
even though they grow underground, the hope is that in these bags you can start to see them form up, and that purple will kind of show through on the clear sides of this bag. So the thing with these is that you want to have them in a warm location before you plant so that a eye sprouts on the potato. And what that really looks like here is this. So you'll see that there's this sprouting growth here, and that's what you're going to plant in the upwards direction so that the leaves will produce upwards and over the top of the container, and then the roots or tubers or potatoes will form up underneath the soil and just create an abundant harvest for you. So you can do one of two things. And for me this year, I'm going to leave them whole. I tried growing seed potatoes a few years ago, and I did the cutting method where you cut it up into multiple different pieces and use those as your seeds. You do need growth points at multiple spots in order to do that. And I just didn't have particularly great luck with that method for whatever reason. So I'm going to leave them whole, but you can cut them and have multiple seeds and, sow them in a trench, a really long trench, where you space them out about 18 inches apart and plant them about 12 inches deep. In our case, we're trying to grow in a patio type method. That way, again, you can see all of the different ways you can grow in a small space and grow a lot of yummy different things. So we're going to grow in these grow bags. I'm going to place all of them in the same bag, which I know sounds crazy and it might not work. I don't know. But I'm planting them all in the same bag, again, because I had such spotty luck in previous go-arounds. My plan or my thought here is if I plant them all together, then at least a couple of them will take, and then I'm not necessarily wasting space on a bag that may or may not grow anything. So this is a tester, both the grow bags and growing these seed potatoes, to see if I can get it to work this time. All right, so let's get these planted. So that is all that we have for today. We planted up our Greenstalk with a lot of great things. I'm super excited to have the start of an apothecary or medicinal herb and flower garden. It's something that I've wanted to do for a really, really long time. So I'm really happy to have this situated and to be able to use these pansies and violas immediately in some really yummy dishes as garnishes or like little pretty things on top of butter. I have a few ideas. I've got something coming up with some friends where I think that a pretty butter might be nice to make. So we shall see. And then we got our little grow bag experiment done. So I am super excited to see these grow. I can't wait for some of these candy onions because they are the best, and I really, really hope that these potatoes grow and we can have some potatoes to eat because I love potatoes. They are the best. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this, seeing a few different ways that you can plant up your space regardless of size, getting a little bit of inspiration for different types of gardening and different ways that you can grow things. It would really mean so much if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel. I will be doing a lot more veggie planting and fruit planting, some cut flower planting, a transition of the tropical backyard that we have kind of
reinvigorating it and planting some new things, and then starting a more formal garden in the front yard, as well as tours to garden centers and really cool gardens kind of all over. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.